One of my favorite movies I feel doesn't get enough love is Romy and Michele's high school reunion, starring Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow as two 20-somethings who realize that their 10-year high school reunion is coming up, and they begin to transform their lives, or at least on the surface, so they can go back and impress their former classmates. They come up with this story of inventing something they think no one will question. This movie came about in 1997, mind you, so this was before we had all the tiny computers in our pockets to fact-check these sort of things. The product they chose is the subject of today's episode, which, spoiler alert, was not invented by Romy or Michele. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind Post-its. But first, a quick message.
Hi, this is Layla. You're listening to my mom's podcast. If you like the story behind, tell your friends. Have fun.
Romy here invented Post-its.
You did not.
Yeah, I did.
You did not?
Yeah, I did.
You did not?
Yeah, well, who did then?
A guy named Art Fry from the 3M Corp. We studied in business school.
Janeane Garofalo's character, Heather Mooney, only got it half right when she said Art Fry invented them, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Back in 1968, way before Romy and Michele supposedly even graduated high school, Spencer Silver worked at 3M in the aerospace department and was working on creating adhesives that would be used to build airplanes. As we know, there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to trying to invent something. And one of the errors Silver made was creating a weak adhesive. Instead of scrapping it, though, he realized putting pressure on the adhesive made it stick. But it was easy enough to come unstuck without leaving any residue. Silver also realized the adhesive, known as acrylate copolymer microspheres, was able to be reused. There wasn't much of a need for a weak adhesive for airplanes, as you can imagine, but Silver kept trying to find a use for it and got the nickname Mr. Persistent because of it. It took another 6 years before his accidental invention found its use as we know it today.
Actually, I invented a special kind of glue.
Oh, really? Well, then I'm sure you wouldn't mind giving us a detailed account of exactly how you concocted this miracle glue, would you?
No. Well, ordinarily when you make glue, first you need to thermoset your resin, and then after it cools, you mix in a epoxide, which is really just a fancy schmancy name for any simple oxygenated adhesive, right? Then I thought maybe, just maybe, you could raise the viscosity by adding a complex glucose derivative during the emulsification process. And it turns out I was right.
The formula Lisa Kudrow's character Michele describes was actually something movie producers asked 3M to come up with. It's not the exact formula, but 3M came up with this description as a way to make it sound plausible enough. As I said, Silver was persistent with his invention. When Jeff Nicholson was made products laboratory manager at 3M in 1973, Silver showed him the adhesive and suggested spraying it on a bulletin board for employees to stick pieces of paper to, which could be easily taken off and moved around. While it was a good idea, it was a little too broad to be taken out of the laboratory, especially since bulletin boards weren't considered a popular product. But it was useful, and it did spark what 3M calls the Eureka moment a year later. Arthur Fry was a product development researcher and a colleague of Silver's in 3M in 1974. He was also fond of singing in the choir at his church. When he used slips of paper to mark pages in his hymn book during Wednesday night practice, he found they fell out by Sunday service. That's when he realized the adhesive Silver was so persistent about may be the answer he was looking for. And as it was known back then, the reusable bookmark was invented. Fry became the Romy to Silver's Michele, so to speak. By the way, when Mira Sorvino made an appearance on HuffPost Live last year, they brought on Art Fry so Sorvino could make an apology in her best Romy voice, and I'll link to that in the show notes. Fry and Silver used these removable bookmarks to leave notes for one another throughout the office, and soon colleagues began asking for their own set of removable bookmarks. 3M was still unsure about the marketing of these until seeing how they could really be used. But even test audiences in 1977 didn't initially see the appeal of what 3M originally called press and peel. It wasn't until 1980 that Post-its really took off and became the hot commodity they did. Even at my old job, you could go into the supply closet to get whatever you needed, but Post-its were kept in a separate location where you actually had to talk to somebody and ask for them. The introvert's nightmare. Needless to say, my holiday gifts to coworkers were bags of office supplies, including Post-it notes.
And I invented them totally by myself. I mean, all Michele did was say, "What about making them yellow?"
Really?
That yellow most associated with Post-it notes became known as canary yellow and is a trademark of 3M. While other sticky notes can be made yellow, that faded yellow and the name canary yellow is the registered trademark. If you pick up a package of Post-its, you'll see the trademark listed on it. But Post-its come in all kinds of colors, shapes, and sizes nowadays. What you might not know is the company 3M produces more than 60,000 different products, many of which aren't even widely known. The company began as Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. See, that's where the 3M comes from. It was originally founded to harvest a mineral known as corundum from a mine called Crystal Bay. When they weren't successful at mining, the 5 founding fathers turned to other products they could easily make and distribute. Their marketing technique was simple. Show what the products can do more than what the product is. When Post-its were marketed, 3M showed all the different ways they could be applied to help productivity in the workplace and at home. Marketing for Post-its have recently gone from focusing on productivity to focusing on positivity, with campaigns using them to brighten someone's day. This may or may not have been inspired by Caitlin Hack, a teenager from Alberta, Canada, who used Post-its to leave positive and uplifting messages to her classmates and teachers one day back in October 2014. Hack was bullied and even sent messages on Facebook to take her own life. She fought back by creating Positive Post-it Day. She decorated the entire school with inspiring notes to share her appreciation and compassion for her fellow students and teachers. When she got in trouble for littering the school, those students and even some of her community showed support for her and the idea, and the campaign exploded. Talk about sticking up for people, right? Right? Information for this episode was sourced from 3M, thoughtco.com, How Stuff Works, and more links which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. Want to talk more about this or past episodes? Find out about future episodes? Enter giveaways and more? Join me and other trivia buffs in the Story Behind discussion group on Facebook, and there will be a link in the show notes to take you there. This episode was brought to you by the Story Behind executive producers who support the show through the Patreon page at patreon.com/thestorybehind. Thanks for listening.